Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the state's webinar.
Button.
Not audible, ma'am.
We are unable to hear you actually.
Is my voice better now, sir? Am I audible?
Yeah. It's
Yes,
now.
sir.
It's audible.
Yes, sir. Thank you. So I would like to welcome everyone to today's webinar session. We will be having the webinar for 1.5 hours, and we will be splitting it into 3 parts. The first part would be an introduction to output outcome monitoring framework by Development Monitoring and Evaluation Office's output outcome monitoring framework team. We will be having an introduction to OOMF here. After this, we will be having the next half an hour where Odisha's finance department would be presenting outcome budgeting, what they have done in their state. And the third part would be the half an hour where we will be having question and answer sessions. So we request everyone to please park their questions to the last, where the question and answers would be there, and both Odisha's finance department as well as DMAO will be able to address the questions. So I would now request our Deputy Director General Radha ma'am to please provide us with an opening remarks.
Good morning. Good morning, everyone. Hope I am. A warm welcome to this session. And today we are this webinar is focusing on how we can the output budget, outcome budgets, how we can take and institutionalize in the different departments of the states. Here in 2017, we made an initiative in the central ministries, output outcome monitoring. It is a shift from mere focusing on the physical as well as the financial monitoring and targets. We are now looking into how this can be translated into different outcomes based our progress of the various schemes and programs of our departments. So for this, in 2017, we took up an initiative by this DMU, and in 2022-23, if we can see that we are licensing with more than 67 departments, line departments at the national level, as well as we are monitoring around 500 centrally sponsored schemes and central sector schemes, which include more than 5,000 output as well as outcome indicators. So we would look forward your participation, your engagement and continuous support, how we can institutionalize this framework, the output outcome monitoring framework, as a data-driven policy initiative, as well as how the schemes, these are the primary mode of taking our beneficiary schemes to the our benefits to the beneficiaries across India, how for the socio-economic development and overall socio-economic development of our country. So we would make a presentation how we are doing at the central level with all the departments. Then you can see that how the best practices, how different states can adopt these things in your own state-specific requirements, so that your schemes will get monitored, reviewed, and design level, if there is any changes are required, that can be implemented. That is purely based on the evidence-based results we can achieve. So with this words, I would like to say that not only the government of India, many states have also started their initiatives in the outcome budgets. Some of the states, I would like to mention that Arunachal Pradesh, Andhra Pradesh, Assam, Bihar, Chhattisgarh, Delhi, Gujarat, Haryana, Jharkhand, Odisha, Uttarakhand. Forgive me if I missed out some other states. So what exactly we would like to say that how this framework we can develop, this document we can develop for each scheme of your own state, centrally sponsored scheme, it is already there. How you can adopt it into your settings, your environment, your departments, how you can take into consideration, and all these schemes can be monitored at the department level or the state level. You can take a cue from whatever we have done. That experience we would be sharing with you, and we would also very happy to see welcome the Odisha state government. They have very happily told us that they will make a presentation how they have made an ecosystem for the digitalizing as well as the monitoring the outcome budget in their states. So that presentation would also be made during this course of webinar. So we request your continued support as well as your engagement and participation, so that we can make the data-driven smart indicators for this, for key performing indicators. We can make it, and we can monitor the progress of each schemes which we are designing for the betterment of our fellow citizens. With these words, I would like to give the floor to our team member Vijayda, so that she can make a presentation, and followed by the Odisha government presentation, and followed by the Q&A session. Thank you very much. Thank you once again for participating. I feel that we have more than 120 or 130 participants. I sincerely welcome once again everyone to this webinar. Thank you very much.
Can we have the presentation on the yeah. So thank you, ma'am. So I'll start with a brief introduction, a brief historical introduction to output-outcome monitoring framework. The concept of outcome budget was introduced in 2005, but it went through multiple iterations in the next decade. And this framework in its current structure was approved in 2017-18 and now has been presented in the parliament since with the union budget for 4 times now. The document actually consists of am I audible now? Okay. So the document actually consists of 2 components. One is output outcome budget, and the second is output outcome monitoring. So in this output outcome budget, we whatever the financial commitment with respect to an intervention is being established, and whatever the corresponding results due to that financial input are being established. So, however, just ensuring the financial commitment won't be enough. To ensure that the evidence-based policy making, it is important to gather the evidence against the committed targets. So this data is gathered by tracking the progress made through the second component of output outcome monitoring. Based on the data that we will make the further decisions on the scheme performance, whether to allocate more resources, whether to allocate more funds or not. So in the next slide, we can, as we have seen earlier, that the framework has been laid in the parliament in the last 4 years. Since then, 67 ministries and departments collaborate with DMEO and Department of Expenditure to track more than 500 central sector and centrally sponsored schemes through more than 5,000 outputs and outcome indicators. So schemes worth more than 14 lakh crores are now being monitored at a quarterly basis through these indicators. The process has now also been mandated for all the ministries and departments as per the Rule 54 of GFR 2017. So this slide shows the document which is laid in the parliament. At the top, you can see the ministry's department and the scheme name. In the table on the first column, the financial commitment is being shown. And further, the results are broken into outputs and outcomes. In the second and fifth column, you can see the well-defined statements of outputs and outcomes, and to measure those outputs and outcomes, specified measurable indicators are framed. which are being, for those, as per the financial commitment, the targets are being set, and the progress is monitored based on those targets. So now let's deep dive into how this framework works. This framework is actually based on a logical results chain approach, which has two components that we have already seen. First is delineating our outputs and outcomes, and then specifying the indicators to measure these statements. So to understand what happens in this results chain approach, let's say whenever intervention is envisaged by a government, we envision a change to bring about a larger impact. So to bring about that impact, we provide certain inputs and expect a change to happen between these two steps. But between these two steps is where we need to see that how this change is happening. And this is the change that we have broken down into several steps, which is activity, outputs, and outcomes. So for example, in Jal Jeevan Mission, government aims to ensure safe and adequate drinking water to each individual household through taps by 2024, with the intention to decrease the waterborne diseases and reduce the drudgery faced by the women to carry water from far off places. But then we have put in place certain inputs such as finances and the human resources which are required to reach to this impact. But to reach to this intended impact, we need to ensure that the outcomes are achieved. So what is this outcome? This is the change in mindsets, practices of our intended target group. For example, in Jal Jeevan Mission, we want the rural households to actually use this safe water through tap connections. But for that, we need to ensure that the quality and the regularity of the water supply to all these households is being. We need to ensure that the quality and regularity of water supply is reached to all these rural households. And this is being measured through an indicator. For example, percentage of households which are reporting that the daily water supply is reaching to their households of 55 liters per capita per day. Now, this outcome will translate from outputs, where we determine the existing barriers that we need to overcome. For example, in Jal Jeevan Mission, piped connections are the immediate constraints that we want to remove, that we want to provide for the provision of water supply. This is being measured by certifying the number of households which has actually got the tap connections. These outputs are actually the immediate results that we have achieved through certain activities. And these activities are being undertaken by various stakeholders. So what are these activities? Like the awareness that we are conducting so that all households actually use the tap connections. That awareness is being given through various state agencies, like a state water and sanitation mission is being run. The Gram Panchayat and districts will collaborate to actually implement the plan. So all the activities which is being happened as per the implementation guideline of the scheme is being covered through these activities. So here we can see that this output outcome monitoring is something which is as per the logical frameworks approach is something that is under the control of the implementers. But at the impact stage, the influence that this scheme has been able to bring about in the actual change and the life experiences of our beneficiaries, that is the influence that we are driving from the outputs and outcomes that we have achieved through this scheme. So the focus of monitoring would be the activities and outputs, and to some level the intermediate outcomes. And the focus of evaluation that will come out from this program will be through the outcome and the impact that is achieved at the end of the program. So, as part of the monitoring, to regularly check the progress that has happened through our framework, there needs to break the silos between ministries and departments, and to bring a better coordination between all the stakeholders. A dashboard is being created for which all the credentials is, at the first part, the credentials are given for each ministries and departments. Then the DMO team will update the indicators and targets for each scheme's framework, and the ministries will report the progress that they have achieved quarterly. And this progress is being captured through the dashboard, and as part of the dashboard's key features, compliance and progress reports of the ministry's continuous updation of the dashboard is being tracked. A heat map as per the actual progress that has been achieved in all the states, like it is possible to reach to the state level and the district level. That granularity is possible to be achieved through the dashboard. There is a audit trail as per all the partners or the stakeholders which are part of this dashboard, who are actually inputting their progress, can be tracked. And through this dashboard, we are able to analyze that progress through multiple graphs. So any number of graphs are possible through this dashboard, like through bar graph, line graph, mixed chart, and heat map can be used to basically see whether which areas are performing better than the others. So now I'll hand over to Bijeta to explain further.
Thank you, Parth. So as Parth has already explained what output outcome monitoring framework is and how we implement this approach at a central level, what I'll be discussing going forward in the next couple of sections is how we can leverage this tool for decision making, not just as a continuous monitoring tool, but also as a planning tool at the scheme design level. Hope I'm audible. So at a design level, what we did last year is we incorporated this tool both at appraisal process as well as monitoring process. Not audible? Okay, sorry. So last year there was a review committee that was set up by Department of Expenditure to review the standard EFC, SFC scheme proposal templates, Expenditure Finance Committee and Standing Finance Committee proposal templates, which is used to review any proposal that is submitted by central ministries for any new schemes or scaling up an ongoing scheme. These, the committee, what deliberated was to improve the relevance, accuracy and coherence of these informations when we do when we bring about a new scheme or implement a scheme. What are the factors that we are looking into to monitor whether the scheme is performing or not performing, and how do we capture those mechanisms right from its inception stage. So when this exercise output outcome monitoring framework was started back in 2017-18, the existing schemes were put into this framework retrospectively. But going forward, what we realized is this tool should be incorporated at an inception stage, at a design stage. And this is where the committee accepted the recommendation of adopting the logical framework, which is a globally accepted best practice to outline the scheme's design and the monitoring and evaluation aspect of the scheme. And this is what the current logical framework based template that has been incorporated in the new scheme proposals, which Department of Expenditure reviews for any scheme that is launched or implemented by all the central ministries and departments. So as we saw a snapshot of the framework earlier, which is laid down in the parliament, it basically lists down the output and outcome indicators, but at a design level, we detail out the inputs, the activities, the risks that are anticipated in terms of achieving those output and outcome. What are the assumptions that we are undertaking for each sequential activity that will eventually lead to achieve that output and outcome is listed. And also the targets, if you see the last 5 columns, we try to push that for any scheme that is being launched or scaled up, there is an anticipated target for next couple of years, not just for immediate results, but for long-term results as well. So this is basically the framework that has been adopted at a central level during the scheme design stage. Similarly, what would be the key enablers to use this tool for a regular monitoring of schemes going forward? So in this slide, what we are trying to present is the key enablers for an ongoing monitoring of a scheme. Some of the key enablers is, first step is to build the technical capacity across department and within department. By stating technical capacity, here we mean building that narrative shift to not just monitor physical progress, but also outcome-based progress within planning department, line department, and also the budget divisions and the Department of Finance when they make decisions. So building that technical capacity to understand the 2 steps which Parth initially explained as delineating output indicators and outcome indicators, and measuring those indicators on how they are progressing against the set target that they have initially laid down for the scheme's objective. Second step is to have a technology system in place to ensure the data flow and data management is put in place. Like we saw the dashboard that Parth presented, at a central level, we are monitoring schemes for more than 67 ministries and departments, which covers more than 500 schemes with more than 5,000 indicators. So tracking this scale of data would require a technology system as a backbone to support the flow of data from different departments and ministries at a one central repository system, where you can analyze these data going forward for decision making, which is the third and fourth step, is through the data so collected through monitoring exercise. These are the evidence. These data acts as your evidence to take further decision. It can be through integration of these evidence in regular performance reviews, or to make financial decision making during appraisal stage or during review and design stage. Using this evidence for performance reviews, you can identify your performing schemes, non-performing schemes, and if they are not performing, what are the indicators where they are not performing. Those areas is where we need to deep dive as implementing agencies, as the planning department, as the line department, to figure out what are the roadblocks, what are the barriers that needs to be overcome to ensure the schemes perform. Similarly, at a review and design stage, along with Department of Finance and Planning Department, when they take a decision to how much budget should be allocated to a given scheme which is being proposed, or a scheme that is being proposed to scale up, have they achieved the intended target and objective for the previous phase? These evidence will help different departments to come up with rationale on how the scheme is performing and which scheme should be scaled up, which scheme should be closed down. And this will lead to eventually a stronger portfolio of schemes at a department level, at a state government level, at a national level, to create a greater impact by integrating these learnings that we are deriving from monitoring of these schemes to lead to not just review but redesign these schemes going forward. So this is how we can leverage the output-outcome monitoring framework for evidence-based decision making. Now, so far we have explained what output-outcome monitoring framework is at a national level. How do we take this to a state government and district level, and how some of the ministries and departments have actually implemented at a state and city level is what we would like to discuss going forward. And here, one of the examples that we wanted to highlight is the Smart City Missions OOMF National Dashboard. This is the screenshot of the Smart City Missions, which is being implemented by Ministry of Housing and Urban Affairs, where they have come up with their own dashboard to monitor the scheme performance by tracking output and outcome indicators. And as you can see, the education sector is listed below, and some of their output indicators are mentioned here. And these are some of the snapshot of the national outputs and outcome indicators of smart city missions at a national level. And then this is the Ajmer city at a city level. These are the outputs and outcome indicators. So output outcome monitoring framework need not be confined to track only central ministry schemes, but this same tool can be adopted for a scheme that is being implemented both at state level as well as district level, city level, such as the smart city mission. And as ma'am has already highlighted, outcome budgeting in India is also being implemented by already existing states. Some of the state names which ma'am had already mentioned are Arunachal Pradesh, Andhra Pradesh, Assam, and in the bracket, as you can see, we have highlighted some of the key features of their outcome budgeting that they are currently publishing. Some of the state governments also have started linking SDG goals with their output and outcome indicators on how they are achieving. Some like Andhra Pradesh and Chhattisgarh have incorporated the risk factors into their outcome budgeting document. Odisha, which we'll see in the next section, in the next set of the agenda for today's presentation, on how they have come up with the budget estimation technique, automation for developing this budget document every year, annually, with different departments and ministries in the state government. And recently, last year, towards December, we also took up this initiative to work with Jammu and Kashmir government to finalize their first outcome budget for their state government for selected departments for this year, which they will be laying down through the outcome budget for key departments and schemes. And going forward, we are also planning to work with other state governments to work towards outcome budgeting in India. Some of the key takeaways on how this tool can be adopted at state and district level is first identifying certain departments and scheme selections on where this should be adopted initially as a pilot and then rolled out to all departments. Stakeholder identification is important because most of the planning department, line department, finance departments are closely involved in decision making of a particular scheme when it comes to scheme performance measurement, scheme scale up, scheme close down, identifying performing, non-performing schemes. Understanding the underlying concepts of this tool, the log frame approach, delineating output statements, outcome statements, and having specific measurable indicators to track these output and outcome statements. Defining indicators in terms of its relevance, attainability, timely manner, and whether it's measurable or not. And the next step that we have put in place is a data architecture assessment, which is very critical element to ensure that this OOMF is a success or outcome budgeting is a success by understanding each different department's data maturity model. Even if we define the best of the indicators but there is not a system in place to capture this data, then this exercise becomes a little fruitless in achieving its objective. So having first a data architecture assessment of different departments to know the readiness level to capture the data that you are defining previously as part of the results chain approach and defining the indicators for output and outcome is important. Further, next step would be having measurable targets which are realistic to be attained by different indicators is important. Targets shouldn't be over ambitious that it's not we are not able to achieve it, and shouldn't be understated as well that we are overachieving by not keeping the realistic figures in place. And to as I initially explained as well, there should be a technology system as a backbone to capture this entire activity around outcome budgeting. The data flow from various departments, which is collated and aggregated at a central repository system, and these data further, which can act as evidence for decision making through analysis of this data, which districts are performing for which schemes, whether the scheme is universally performing or performing at only at particular districts, and why certain indicators are achieving the targets, certain indicators are not achieving the target. This having an ICT system will give you a near real-time information of the scheme implementation. Having periodic review and learning at implementation level, mostly at a planning and line department, is important on a quarterly basis, semi-annually basis, and at an annual basis, we recommend that an apex level review and appraisal is conducted with secretary level involvement and additional secretary level involvement, where they can monitor and review the progress of the scheme's performance and take decision of redesigning any scheme or rationalizing any schemes where two particular schemes with similar outcomes can be converged, horizontal convergence can happen going forward. So with that, I'll hand it over to, if there are any questions and discussions, please post your questions in the chat box. We'll be taking it up after the next section together. And with this, I'll hand it over to the Finance Department of Government of Odisha to take it forward with explaining their best practice on how they have been coming up with the beta technique that they have adopted for outcome budgeting in Odisha.
Good morning, all. This is Devipriya Vishal, Additional Secretary Finance, Government of Odisha. First of all, let me tell you that we are really very happy that we are given an opportunity to share our experience in implementation of online outcome budget in beta. And before we start our discussion, so let me very briefly introduce our members present in this panel. So we have Satyapriya Ratha with us. He is the Director Budget, and he has got vast experience in handling budget and budget-related matters. Apart from that, he has also handled many issues relating to public financial management. So we are really happy to have him here in our panel. We have Deputy Secretary Sri Molaya Kumar Mahanti and Joint Secretary Sri Hudaya Kamal Jana present here. Besides, we have Dasrathi Sahu, the team leader of PPMU, and his team present here in the panel. So basically, we have divided our presentation into three parts. Part one is about, very briefly, we'll discuss about the background, why we have moved to our outcome budget. And part two is tells about the journey of implementation of outcome budget in manual mode till the implementation of outcome budget on online mode in beta. And part three is about how we have implemented this outcome budget in beta model using this beta model. So before we start a discussion, let me tell you, beta is basically budget execution technique automation. This is the system which has been designed by Finance Department with the help of NIC, which basically handles all budget related matters of the state government. And since it has got a very robust system, we have decided to implement our outcome budget using this beta module. So as you all know that outcome budget is basically the performance measurement of a particular department in terms of outcome vis-a-vis output and outlays. And somewhat down the line, though it is the case, somewhat down the line, the focus remained confined only to the outlays. It never shifted to outcome. That is the reason why Government of India and many other states decided to adopt outcome budget. And Government of India started this implementation of outcome 5-6. And after that, many states followed the suit, and Odisha is one of the pioneering states to implement this outcome budget in the year 2010-11. In the 10-11, we have piloted this outcome budget in 5 departments, and subsequently extended to 13 departments. And now the 27 major spending departments are actually preparing outcome budget in Odisha. And these 27 departments have been chosen very carefully to cover all the sectors of development like social sector, economic sector, infrastructure sector, so that no sector of the government is left behind. And as you know that you have a unit called Program Performance and Outcome Monitoring Unit, which was established in the year 2013. And that unit, in addition to the other works, they have also played a very important role in implementation of this outcome budget. And we have actually migrated to this outcome budget, online outcome budget in the year 21-22. But before that, the departments used to prepare outcome budget manually from 2010-11 onwards. So just briefly, let me tell you how it was prepared when it was prepared manually and what were the weakness in that system, so that you'll be able to appreciate better why we have migrated from manual mode to online mode of outcome budgeting. When the outcome budget was prepared manually, the department used to prepare this outcome budget in shape of a document, and which consisted of several chapters. And in this chapter, apart from mentioning about the outcome, output, and outlay in chapter 2 and the achievement in both physical and financial terms in chapter 4, they were writing many things in chapter 1, 3, and 5. In chapter 1, they used to write about the department, their organizational structure, and the activities carried out by the departments. In chapter 3, what reform measures were taken by the departments were mentioned. In chapter 5, they used to indicate the gender and SC/ST component. So basically, this was a kind of information document which disseminated informations in various areas, including outcome and output budget. And at the same time, the departments were also preparing annual activity report, in which they used to write the same thing what they are writing in the outcome budget. So there is a lot of duplication of work. One thing was there. Second thing, which in the manual mode of outcome budget, the department which were preparing outcome budget, say for the year 21-22. So when they prepare the outcome budget and set the target for the year 21-22, both in terms of output and outcome, they used to indicate the achievement both in physical and financial terms of the previous year. So by the time they indicate this achievement in physical and financial terms in the year 21-22, the budget for the year 21-22 is already over. So there is very little scope of basically to take those corrective measures while preparing the outcome budget for the next year or preparing the annual budget for the next year. Because of Mala, can you show one document of a department when it was prepared in the manual mode? So this is how a document of Urban and Housing Development Department looked like while we are preparing outcome budget manually. This belongs to the year 1920. So it's a document consisting of maybe 60-70 pages. Next slide. So as I have already told that there is some weaknesses in the process of preparation of outcome budget in manual mode. So in order to avoid that, we decided to actually migrate to the online mode of outcome budgeting. And first and foremost is to avoid duplication of work, as I have already told. And needless to say that when we'll be preparing it on online mode, we'll be saving time and saving a lot of paper also. Will not be publishing any document as such. Apart from these two reasons, another reason which is very important why we have migrated to this online outcome budget in the beta model, because of the 5T initiative of Government of Odisha. Government of Odisha has been focusing on this 5T initiative for last 2.5 or 3 years so. And in this 5T initiative, basically, the 5 Ts are involved in the process. The 5 Ts are teamwork, then technology, transformation, transparency, and time. So basically what this initiative aims at, taking transformative measures in a transparent and timely manner with the help of teamwork and technology. So as part of this, actually we have migrated from manual mode of preparation of outcome budget to online outcome budget in the beta module. These are the basically inherent advantage of preparation of outcome budget in this beta module. Beta is, as you know, as I have already told, that is budget execution technique automation. and it handles the entire budget making process of the state. So it has got some inherent advantage. That's why we have migrated from this manual mode to the online mode of outcome budgeting using this beta system. So in the system, this online outcome budget can be prepared in a very less time. So we'll be saving a lot of time as compared to the manual mode of preparation of outcome budget. And in this, since this beta module handles the budget related data of the state, it has got some informations already built into the system, like outlays and output. In the system, when the department will prepare this online outcome budget in the beta module, they do not have to enter in the module, they do not have to enter the outlays and output. It will be auto-populated for them because it is already there in the beta system. So third advantage of is the green initiative. As I told that we'll not be publishing any documents, so we'll be saving on papers and trees. So basically, this is a green initiative, so to say. And this module also will ensure concurrent monitoring and taking course corrective actions in course of the financial year. That we'll be discussing later while we'll be discussing how we have designed the monitoring module and how they can take the course corrective action during the current financial year, in the year in which the actual of the outcome budget is prepared. And the fourth advantage of this model is that it will act as a storehouse of data. As I've already told, name of the schemes and outlay of all the schemes are there already there in the beta system. And the second thing is that once the beta system is open and once the department enter data relating to the, apart from this name of the scheme and outlays relating data relating to objectives, output and outcome, it is stored in that system. For the subsequent years, they do not have to again write the or to incorporate the data relating to or information relating to objectives, outputs or outcomes. So 60 to 70 or 80% of the data will be there in the system. So in case of any modification or customization, they can change the data or modify the data for the subsequent years. One of the last but not the least, the most important advantage of this preparation of our online outcome budget in beta module is that it can be made part of the budget making process, in the sense that once the department will have a quarterly monitoring system, which we have designed the module for them. We'll be discussing it later. During the during the financial year, they can take course corrective action and taking cue from this quarterly monitoring system, from which they will get to know that why the target so fixed has not been achieved, and what is there any process flaw, or is there any other corrective measures need to be taken. Using that knowledge, they can prioritize and they can rationalize the schemes and the outlays for the next financial year when the budget will be prepared for the next financial year. So these are the advantages basically. And when we started preparing this outcome budget for the online outcome budget in the year 21-22, detailed guideline was prepared, and it was along with the user manual, it was shared with the departments. And 27 major spending departments were actually preparing this online outcome budget, though we have made it mandatory for 27 departments. In our circular, in the guideline, we have made it optional for other departments to also prepare online outcome budget if they want. A module, as I have already told, a module has been developed in this beta system, and the team beta, the team which has designed this module, and our PPM, our knowledge partner, provided necessary technical guidance to the stakeholders of the departments for this purpose. And training program was conducted for smooth implementation of this online outcome budget in 21-22. And after the training, the handholding supports were also extended by our team, both beta and PPM team, to the stakeholders of the department. And there are another module called we have designed in this beta system, that is monitoring module in the beta system. And this module has been developed in the beta, and the departments are required to enter their quarterly achievement. We'll show that the module, module screenshot of the module subsequently in the subsequent slides. And the departments are required to enter this quarterly achievement both in financial and physical terms against the target fixed by the departments. And we have also issued the guidelines regarding this implementation of monitoring module. So when we say that we have migrated to this implementation of outcome budget, online outcome budget in the beta module, migrated from the manual process of preparation of outcome budget, we have a process flow. Basically, these 3 slides will describe how the process, the system works for implementation of online outcome budget in the beta system. Basically, this is divided into 3 stages. In the first stage, when as soon as the department logs into the beta model, the outcome budget in the beta system, the dashboard will open for them, and once once they log in, the table or the field will be available to them, in which they will be incorporating, or they will be feeding data relating to objectives, output, and outcome, because the outlay and the name of the schemes will be auto populated for them. So basically, after the department prepares the document, the draft document, it goes to, we have got 2 stages of vetting actually of the document. In the first stage, once the document, the draft is prepared, it goes to our knowledge partner PPMU for initial vetting. And after initial vetting, it is sent back to the administrative department, and the department, after due incorporation of this data, they, with the approval of the secretary of the department, sends it to the finance department. So the first stage ends there, and once it lands up in finance department, that stage 2 starts. In finance department, respective expenditure branches, which actually handles the budget of various departments, they initially then head the draft outcome budget, and they first of all find out whether the views given by the knowledge partner PPM has been duly incorporated or not. And after that, they also, in addition to that, they vet the document and suggest a modification if it is required. And once it is prepared by the vetted by the department, by the expenditure branch, with the help, with the approval of the Secretary of Finance Department, it is sent back to the department, the administrative department again. So the stage 2 ends there, and stage 3 starts after that. And once it is vetted by finance department and sent to the administrative department then duly incorporates the views given by finance department, and with the approval of the secretary of the department, the document is made final. And once the documents of all the departments final, then the OBFA branch of a finance department, that is outcome budget and fiscal analysis branch of the finance department, the nodal branch which actually handles implementation of this online outcome budget, they will prepare a consolidated outcome budget document of all the departments. So all the outcome budget of all the departments will be available at one place. So they are the major stakeholders in this process, the administrative departments. When we say that administrative department, it is basically right from the level of secretary to the offices at various levels, those who are handling schemes, then finance department, of course, finance department, and finance department, all the expenditure branches, and along with secretary and all those who are associated are also stakeholders. PPM or knowledge partner is a stakeholder. And one more stakeholder is there. Actually, we have forgotten to indicate here that it is planning and convergence department is also a stakeholder, major stakeholder in this process. So this is the screenshot. Can you explain more this screenshot? How they log in and how the department.
We have designed the outcome module in our beta system. The departments will log into the system with their credential here, and after login, they go to this screenshot. Under that, there is a outcome preparation, report, submit proposal, review, etc. Under preparation, this type of screen will appear, where the scheme, the outlays will be there, and the department required to enter objective, output, outcome, and remarks. All these, after entering these remarks, the process will follow as explained in our earlier slide, and then after approval, we are getting this type of approved document.
After the process is completed for all the schemes of a department, this kind of a report will be generated. We have given a screenshot just to show you how the report looks like.
This scheme name, budget allocation, objective, output, indicator, unit of measurement, target for the year, outcome, outcome indicator, unit of measurement, target, and remarks factor. This will be the format.
So this is basically the process flow of outcome monitoring in module of beta in the beta system. The department will log into the online monitoring module, and once they log into the system, the format will be open. And in that, they will enter the data relating to the quarterly achievement data relating to in case of financial target as well as in case of physical target. So we'll show you how they will do it in the screenshot.
Similarly, another module in that outcome budget is monitoring module. If you click on that, then this type of screen will appear where scheme, just the name of the scheme and provision will be there. And also the expenditure from our IFMS integrated financial management system that will be auto-populated here. And we have to enter the financial and...
Just a minute here, I want to say that when they will this expenditure relating to a particular provision will be automatically captured in the system, because our beta system is completely integrated with our IFMS system of treasury, integrated financial management system of treasury. So from there, the expenditure relating to a particular scheme will be captured automatically. In case of any discrepancy, if the department have a different figure than what has been generated in the system, then they can reconcile it and give a remark in the remarks column. A specific remarks column is also there in the system.
And there is two things here, it's financial and physical. They have to click on that, and after that, they have to enter some data. Against provision, the quarterly achievement will be put here, and remarks also will be there. This is we have this test server, then the exact document will be there.
This is the monitoring module. Once
after approval,
this kind of a monitoring report will be generated.
There will be scheme, objective, budget provision, and against that provision, quarterly achievement, both financial and physical. Q1, Q2, Q3, Q4, these are the quarterly achievement, and remarks column as well.
Yes, every system, as you know, when we implement, you face some challenges. So as we are facing some challenges while implementing this online outcome budget in the beta module. The first and foremost is capacity building of the various stakeholders. That is a big challenge for us since we have migrated for the first time from manual mode to the online mode. This is a challenge for us to build the capacity at various levels. And the second challenge is utilize this budget in budget making process. So we have to actually find out an ideal time where when this online outcome budget can be made part of this budget making process. For that, actually, we need to sit down with our budget branch and planning and convergence department and to find out at what time it should be made part of this budget making process. And last, which is also very important, that we want to create an outcome budget ecosystem, basically with the help of an external agency, maybe, particularly relating to IT-enabled data management system that assist to assist stated interest in utilizing outcome budget process. So for the timing, these are the challenges. And the way forward for us is that, as you know, that way forward only emerges out of these challenges. So way forward is basically, we'll be dealing with the same thing. We'll focus on building the capacity of the people associated with the preparation of this online outcome budget of the department at the level of department. So here our focus would be on creating a TOT kind of thing, training the trainers, so that the department after the TOT, that they are trained, they can train the people down below. And second, we want that it will be the outcome budget for the year 22-23 will be made in the budget making process, will be utilized in the budget making process for 23-24. And most important thing is that when we design this quarterly monitoring module for this online budget for the departments, we want that there should be a monitoring system where there should be a continuous flow of information from implementing agencies and down below to the department on maybe on a quarterly basis, so as to sync with the system, with the module. And having said this, let me tell you that it's not that department do not have any monitoring mechanism. They do have some internal monitoring mechanism. They do monitor their schemes. the streams are monitored at the level of department and other levels. But what we want that the department should have a system where there should be a continuous flow of information instead of falling on the agencies, implementing agencies and fields down below whenever there is a requirement for monitoring. Then, of course, collaborating with in co-creation of OBR ecosystem, we may look forward to actually if NITI Aayog can help us in doing this, building an ecosystem for the states. Then states will be it will be very helpful for the states because all the states and including Odisha, we are still in the learning phase. So we want look forward to the help of NITI Aayog in this respect. So that's all from our side. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much. Am I audible? Thank you, sir. Thank you very much for your presentation. We see there are a couple of questions in the chat box as well as a few hands raised. We would now be taking the question and answer.
So now we are open for the discussion actually.
Yes. मेरा audible ही नहीं हुआ था. Thank you for this. Thank you for the presentation, sir.
Are we audible?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. Are you able to hear us?
Are we audible?
Yeah. Yes.
Yes, sir. You're audible, sir.
हमारा आ रहा है.
Sushma?
Are we audible?
Can you hear, sir? Can you hear us?
Yes, Sushma, you are audible. Even the panel from Odisha is audible. But I
Okay,
think
thank
there
you.
is some issue with their internet.
Okay, so we would thank you. We would now be opening the floor for questions. We see a couple of hands raised from the participants. We would now be calling upon them one by one so that they can present the question. We will now be calling Mr. Surendra Kumar Sahu, who has raised his hand. Sir, you're unmuted. You may please post your question. Thank you. Yeah, yes, sir. We're just checking if.
Am I audible now?
Yes, sir, you're audible.
Okay.
Please
Good morning, everybody. Since last 1 minute, I couldn't listen what happened because nothing was appearing on my screen. Anyway, the question that I want to ask is that the data model being adopted in the state of Odisha has been a very good initiative and is capturing all the matter relating to budget execution digitally. But my question is, sometimes some emergency arises in which whatever provision is made in the beta software, so that emergency features are not being incorporated immediately. To that aspect, what progress can be made? So in that system itself, which will look after the emergencies, like last year when this corona broke out was there. So certain expenditures were made by different departments for addressing the problem of corona, like purchasing of medicine and other issues. Now, such issues which are appearing suddenly due to unavoidable situations. So such aspects, can it be digitally also captured in between after the beta model is prepared for the budget process? That is what I want to know.
You see, this is basically a issue of you see, any expenditure or any unit of expenditure which is made available in the budget is with legislative approval. So there is a process. So in course of the year, there are different options like reappropriation or supplementary budget. That kind of activities have to be taken to change units and then increase the provision in other units. So basically technology itself cannot change these numbers unless there is authorization from the legislature. So I don't think this is anything linked to outcome budget or so. Any clarification on this? If you want in detail, we can have discussion later on.
Okay.
Thank you, sir. We now have the next question from Mr. Sitaram Yadav. We would request Mr. Sitaram Yadav to kindly post the question.
Sitaram ji, if you want to ask a question, please ask, and also please indicate your departments and states from which you belong to.
Alternatively, you can also write down your queries in the chat box if you are unable to share through unmuting your mic.
We may now call upon State Planning Commission Tamil Nadu for the question, if they can unmute themselves and post the question.
It's good that Odisha has taken up this initiative of outcome budget and presenting and the indicators. But what we want is, we would be happy if NITI Aayog can give us a log frame that has been filled in with the clear outcomes indicator, then and the indicators, and then what has been achieved and how we measure that this outcome has been achieved. Because what we feel is relating to budget, it's just financial expenditure and then financial outlay, and then what has been met with during the current year, this financial year. But with regard to certain other aspects of SDG, there are many departments which end up in relating to a single goal. So how such an issue is handled? So there might be many different indicators, but all lead to attainment of a single goal. So that would be spread over different departments. So how do we capture this in the log framework?
Thank you, sir, for your question. So there will be certain schemes, multiple schemes with similar output and outcome indicators. Here we have to understand the convergence aspect as well as see which indicators are directly the result of certain activities for that particular scheme that we are tracking. So we can have a detailed capacity building session around this log frame approach when we define indicators. What is the smart model that we use when we say it's specific, measurable, and actually do a hands-on exercise to come up with a log frame template that we showed during our presentation on how it can be filled by various implementing departments itself who are running the schemes, and what activities that the scheme implementing agencies are actually doing on ground, and these activities are actually then resulting in output and outcome indicators. With that, sir, do you want to add anything?
Thank you, Vijeta. To answer your questions in a very simple way, before answering this question, you are very much right that, no schemes can address outcomes in totality. There are number of interventions required to achieve one outcomes. So that is why in our log frame approach, we identified output and outcomes along with their targets. The main purpose of identification of target for each output and outcome indicator is that how much intervention we want to bring through that particular schemes should be measured through this set of outcome indicator against the targets, set at the designing stage of a scheme itself. So this is a very simplistic approach through which we are intending to measure the performance of one specific schemes through the log frames approach. So detail of this, how we are doing it, can be further discussed in detail one-to-one. For this, we are also planning to have regional workshops apart from the individual states engagement program. So we will discuss in details in this regard. Thank you.
Thank you, madam. So we'll be happy to, if you can share all those data and the filled up data with us, and we'll have it in the regional handholding meetings that it has been proposed by NITI Aayog.
Sure.
Forward for it.
Sir, also just to add, the past outcome monitoring framework for the central ministries are published on our website as well, where you can refer to some of the sample schemes, log frame, outcome monitoring framework with detailed indicators. Some of these log frames are also available on Department of Expenditure website, finance website as well.
Right, madam. We'll have a look at it.
Okay. Thanks, Vijeta. We have one more hand raised from Devaselvi Rajkumar. We would request them to kindly post their question. To the Odisha team. It says that what is the time period envisaged to establish OB in a department? So request Odisha to kindly answer.
Yeah. Normally in manual mode, what used to happen, basically the outcome budget exercise used to start after the budget is presented. Because many departments are involved and many consultation processes are involved, and everything used to flow in a manual mode, it used to take quite a lot of time, maybe 2 to 3 months time to actually complete the outcome budget preparation process. So it used to, in our case, it used to go up to the month of June or July to actually complete the outcome budget preparation process. So monitoring process actually starts after that. But good thing is that after this outcome budget module was introduced in our state, normally in our case the budget is presented towards mid of February. We are able to ensure that the outcome budget preparation process is also completed before start of the financial year. So that gives us a good handle to start monitoring immediately from the start of the financial year. So this has been a good improvement over our previous practice of manual system. So ideally, the outcome budget preparation, like linking the outlays to outputs and outcome, should be complete before start of the financial year. That is the ideal time I would suggest.
Just to add, if it is a new department, then the time envisaged to make it functional in that department is not less than 6 months. Because you have to orient the top officials on this and get them going on doing this task. Second, getting to the level of officials who are actually dealing with these schemes and building their capacities, building their understanding. That takes time. Once that is done, then filling into the outcome budget framework is not a big task. I think this preparatory time is a critical engagement with a new department. If the department is doing it before, then you don't need time. You have online budget and that doesn't take much time.
May not be a problem for 27 departments who have been preparing actually outcome budget. For the rest of the departments, what he is saying is relevant.
So, for example, if you get into a home department, which is more of a law and order kind of organization, but they also have social protection programs, which are highly relevant in our current society. And if they have to do an outcome budget preparation, then orienting them as to what is important for them. Because each and every scheme, if you start doing incorporating into an outcome budget, then the whole process loses its meaning. And you may not have the time and energy to collect that kind of information, convert it into a usable frame, and then do all schemes monitoring. So there you need to do a bit of prioritizing and deprioritize some of the schemes, and then get into a greater understanding of the scheme, their outputs, activities, what kind of outcomes and timelines for each. As we all realize that monitoring outcome is not a 1 year kind of thing. It requires multiple inputs from various departments, and outputs are easier to monitor, and that's where I think if the focus is kept right on that, then rest of the things will follow suit. Say, for example, if I'm looking at malnutrition as an issue, then the outcome is not dependent just on WCD department's work or health and family welfare's work or PR and there are 3-4 departments who are engaged. Now, as you build into different departments, rules of business prevents you cross work. Then there, the finance department's outcome budgeting framework plays a dominant role. How do you integrate these and convert them into right kind of outputs at all 3 departments? So you need to really look at those kind of things. So as we said, depending on the need for convergence, depending on the stage in if it is a new department, then at least you would need 6 months time. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. We have 2 more questions from Ms. Sujata. One question is related to the amount, the budget, the amount of investment made by Odisha to achieve this level of outcome budgeting. So if you can touch upon how were the finances involved in bringing this platform. The second question is regarding whether gender budgeting has also been included in the outcome budgeting. If you can address both the questions, sir. Thank you.
Yeah, this is a very good question, and actually we have quite a number of applications that are already built into the system, which we are in the process of integration. For example, we have put in place a online scheme appraisal mechanism. This scheme appraisal mechanism earlier was actually offline. So now we have made it a comprehensive online scheme appraisal mechanism where actually the financial and physical targets for the entire project period is captured in the system, in that very beta system. We are preparing gender budget, we are preparing child budget, we are preparing nutrition budget, we are preparing climate budget, and all those budget documents and the statements are auto generated from the system itself. So good thing is that we have all these and also the SDG linkages. All SDG goals and indicators are linked to respective schemes, and the mapping is already there in the system. So because all those things are already in place, it has made our life much easier to migrate to an online outcome budgeting mechanism. And of course, I will not say that we have completely done all these mappings so far with the outcome budget module. We are actually in the process of mapping all those things so that any data which is pulled, it should be tested prior to actually pulling to the system. So actually integrating with all those things are in the process, and we are hopeful that in the next financial year we will be able to actually generate quite a number of information, including the output from the system itself, so that monitoring becomes easier. So far as the financial part is concerned, the team is already in place, and for our case, because it is an in-house team, probably the incremental cost is very negligible in our case. But unless you have that kind of system in place, there will be some cost. Thank you.
Since the system is there, we did not have to invest in monetary terms, but there were a lot of energy, manpower, and time definitely invested in preparation of this online outcome budget in the beta module.
But if any state which is trying to initiate such an initiative, then they must have adequate resources, not less than 5 crore a year, to establish this kind of support systems. And besides, they need to also work along with each state must be having the NIC team which might be supporting, or there are other IT enabled systems which might be there. They need to really make that assessment. If they don't have, because each state must be having an IT department, and IT department must be providing different kinds of support in terms of IT enabled governance systems. And if that can be capitalized, then you don't need money on that. But putting up a system putting up a team which supports all these things is will cost you somewhere around 3 crore to 5 crore a year.
Thank you, sir. We had a follow-up question to it regarding gender budget, whether it is being included in your outcome budget. If you can address that as well.
Yes, it is already a part of our budget making process and also the outcome budget.
So we have one last question for the session. The question is from Mr. Satyendra Pal Chahal. So they're asking if the framework being designed is applicable to both planned schemes as well as non-scheme initiatives as well, and whether these are already aligned with the Sustainable Development Goals.
As we all know that from 2017, after dismantling of the Planning Commission, the plan-non-plan distinction is over. So different departments have their own budget classification. In our case, we have 4 broad categories. One is administrative expenditure, second is program expenditure, third is disaster management, and fourth is transfers from the state. So primarily, SDG, aligning the SDG budget covers all 4. Let me tell you, there are some things which are not directly linked, like debt servicing and all those things. But in kind of administrative expenditure, which was earlier non-plan expenditure, salary of teachers, salary of doctors, salary of other medical staff, all those things are very much relevant to the SDG, and all these things are mapped to the respective SDG goals and indicators. So the SDG mapping covers all categories of expenditure that is whatever is relevant to the SDG goals and indicators. So in our case, we have mapped about last year, the total budget size in our case was around 1,70,000 crore. So we could map around 1,43,000 crore out of that. Because primarily the debt servicing part we excluded, which is around 25,000 crore. So almost 97% of the non-debt category of expenditure was mapped to the SDG goals and indicators.
Thank you, sir. We would. Thank you, sir. We have no more questions from the participants. We would now be proceeding towards the closing remarks, before which we would also like to say that in the chat box, we have put in a feedback form to all the attendees. We request them to kindly fill in the form so that we will also understand how we can make these webinars better in the future. So the feedback form is pretty simple, and it will be taking only 30 seconds of your time. Request you to kindly fill them up as well.
Thank you very much for participation, and we request that all of you kindly go through our website. There we have already put out the framework already available, and you can go through it. And we are also planning to have regional workshop and one-to-one interaction with the states, the Tamil Nadu, that we are going to take it up very soon. So Jammu Kashmir, we have already had a discussion with them. So similarly, we would like to come up to each and every state so that they can make institutionalize the system in their own state itself. So we are looking forward to your cooperation as well as the continued support so that we can take it into the next level. Yeah. With this, I would like to ask Akhilesh to just.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, Sushma. Before proposing vote of thanks, I would also like to share our experiences, what we are doing at the central level. Despite having 4 years of experience in, developing, preparing, and presenting the outcome monitoring framework along with the union budget, our indicator is still evolving. What we see is that it's all depend on the data maturity, how much data maturity we have at our department's level. All indicators are depends on that. So my request to all the states and UTs are that the admin data, which are very important and have very key role in implementing the entire framework, monitoring framework, is that you can develop your frameworks with the slight enhancement of your administrative data. So this is also a key component and have a very important role in our outcome budget. So the role of this should also be considered while discussing the outcome budgeting here. Every year we start our documentation compilations by I think from October itself we start this process, and on 1st February when we present our union budget, we also present the entire framework, which are consisting of more than 500 indicators. So this is a very cumbersome process. Presently, we are doing in the offline mode, but we are intending to develop one, integrated IT system through which all this will be integrated and will be done through the software itself. So with this, I take privilege to propose a vote of thanks. I would like to express my gratitude to all the presenters for sharing their, insights and their experiences, their knowledge with us. Of course, this webinar is on capacity enhancement. So I think we with the experience of Odisha, we try to bring forth some of the good practices which are doing at the state level. I extend my gratitude to Devi Priya Biswal sir, Additional Secretary, Mr. Malay Kumar Sahu, Deputy Secretary from Department of Finance. Sorry if I pronounce wrongly any name. Mr. Dasarathi Sahu, team leaders from Program Performance and Outcome Monitoring Units, all from the state of Odisha, to take out time from their busy schedules and grace the event. I would take this opportunity to thanks also Bijeta and Parth from DMU for presenting the key insight on outcome and output monitoring frameworks. I would also like to thank our DDG ma'am Radha R. Asrit and DG sir Dr. Shekhar Bonu for his constant guidance and support. Basically, this online webinars is a result of our deep commitment for strengthening capacity of the state functionaries with the overall vision of Sabka Saath, Sabka Vikas. I hope today's sessions has helped you in expanding your understanding on outcome budgetings and monitoring frameworks. Government of India's monitoring frameworks as well as the outcome budget of Union of India is available on the website. I request all of you to kindly visit DMU websites as well as the Ministry of Finance websites, go through that and also offer your comment for further improvement on this. In further engaging with the states governments, we are, as ma'am has already mentioned, we are planning multiple engagement programs like regional workshops, partnering with UN agencies and universities. Basically, our intent is to improve the monitoring and evaluation system at all levels of governments. I would also like to especially thank Additional Secretary sir for agreeing to present their good practices. I hope the kind of interventions which Government of Odisha has bring while integrating the budget document with IFMS and online outcome budgeting processes has helped you. You also discuss internally with your own departments and try to improve in your own states. We also urge the remaining states to present their good practices so that others may also learn and replicate the same in their own respective states and offices. My special thanks to all the participants. Today we have more than 200 participants who are attending this webinar. Team members, MNE nodals, officer from Directorate of Economic and Statistics from the states as well as the districts authority, who have joined and actively participated in today's webinar. At last, let me thank Ms. Susma, MNE lead, Ms. Tanvi, Mr. Harish, Ms. Ankita, and Mr. Abhishek from NIC, and entire DMU team members, state nodals who made this webinar success. Thank you all once again, and wish you have a nice day. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. We will now be closing the session. Thank